Well, boys, here we are. These final 2 weeks are what we all work so hard to get to, or in some cases, work so hard to avoid. How'd we get here? Oh, I'll fucking tell ya. This week started out just like any other. Matchup picks, me posting the recap this week in a weirdly timely manner, and Thursday night football. Typically, Thursday night football most years has been, frankly, really boring. But not this week. Bucks Falcons was fucking electric, with both teams throwing just haymakers back and forth. The biggest haymaker, however, was Kyle motherfucking Pitts. He was in my lineup for less than 30 minutes before kickoff. A random sensation came over me, and I was thinking, Brendan Strange isn't the way to go. I've never had Kyle Pitts on my roster for even 1 week. Let's give him a shot. But his point explosion, along with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion from Chris Godwin, set the tone for the weekend and provided a stark reminder that in a 1-week matchup, anything can happen. What that meant for Sam, of course, is that his juggernaut team was definitely going to lose, and he was going to quit fantasy football and probably jump off a tall building. Sam, Patrick, and I woke up Sunday morning in D.C., had a lovely breakfast, turned on the 1 o'clock games, which, by the way, that is so fucking late. It is the worst. And by 1:24 p.m., both ETN and Swift had scored, and Sam again reiterated that his week was over, his championship dreams had been dashed away. He left D.C. on a mid-afternoon flight, fully resigned to the fact that he had lost and would be competing for third place next week. But remember, kids, anything can happen. By the time he'd landed later that afternoon, Rams-Lions had begun, and Sam was soon to gain 68 points from his 3 players in that game, plus James Cook providing another 29 on top of that for a total of about 97 points from 4 players. Suddenly, projections in our matchup began drastically shifting. Sam found himself pulling ahead, and he ended the day with a league-best 171 points and a 24-point lead against me heading into Sunday night. Jordan Addison, of course, is a good player, but he isn't 24 points in a single game kind of good, especially not with 9 fucking J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. Sam secured his win and now heads into his second championship appearance. And as for my team, I frankly couldn't have asked for more from my guys. This was my highest scoring week this year by like 20 points. My team scored 11 touchdowns, including 5 combined from ETN and Swift. In fact, 11 touchdowns actually might be the most any team has scored in a single week this year. Someone fact check me on that, but it definitely feels like it could be true. At least it's close. Frankly, as we all know, I was just happy to be in the playoffs, and it's nice to see that my squad stepped up for a week before I now get my ass blasted by Chris over the next 2 weeks. The other playoff matchup was, frankly, equally riveting as expected, though perhaps a little quieter scoring-wise. Chris's stud running backs scored well, though only a little over half of their normal weekly average, while Tim's running backs disappeared almost entirely, save for an early Rico Dowdle touchdown. Tim got almost half his points from Josh Allen and Trey McBride, and normally 108 points isn't enough to expect a win, as the league's weekly average is just over 109 points a game. But Tim barely held on to secure his most recent championship appearance. Chris, on the other hand, is surely kicking himself. Starting Isaiah Likely over tight end 2, Travis Kelce, was the decision, and the decision alone, that kept him away from his shot at a third championship. That is fucking brutal, Chris. We've all been there, but that's really brutal. Chin up, man. You'll be back next year. We all know that. Now you get to have fun beating me by 60 points over the next 2 weeks. Or maybe not, because as we all know, anything can happen. I'll spend less time on the middle matchups, but I do want to acknowledge how thoroughly Patrick dismantled Jason. Patrick actually could have even scored more, but has had some really bad luck with choosing his wide receivers this year. Both Flowers and Franklin on his bench would have bumped him up at least 10 points. I mean, not that it matters, though. Jason continued his trend of booming or busting. It's been back and forth basically every week this year. Seriously, go look at Jason's schedule. It's almost every single week. Not coincidentally, Jahmyr Gibbs has also ping-ponged back and forth with his production for the better half of a year as well. I mean, there's a strong chance that Jason goes absolute nuclear against Dan's struggling team in week 16 and 17, but as we all know, anything can happen. Kevin literally doubled Dan up, showing that Dan's fifth kid, 19th kid, can't get here soon enough. Kevin had 4 players score 20 or more points, while Dan only had 3 guys in double digits, period. I mean, Dan's team obviously sucks right now. Something I know about a pot and a kettle, whatever. 153 in a single week does not a great team make. We all know that. But even despite this suckage, Dan is thrilled just to not be in the Sacco. If he was, he'd be in some real deep shit against Scott. Kevin, on the other hand, began the season averaging 93 points a game over the first 8 weeks. And now over the past 7, he's averaging almost 122 points a game and even had a backdoor shot to make the playoffs in the final week of the regular season. A good lesson in perseverance, because like I've said, anything can happen. Kevin, good on you, brother. The Sacco matchup between Scott and Grant is off to a predictably mediocre start, and I'm touching my fictional earpiece and being told that Trevor Lawrence scored 6 touchdowns this past week, including a rushing touchdown. And speaking of rushing, Brandon Aubrey had 6 rushing yards and missed multiple field goals for the first time all year. What the fuck is going on down there, guys? Are y'all okay in that Sacco matchup? Probably not, but need to keep an eye on you guys. I mean, it really is true. If Brandon Aubrey can gain 6 rushing yards, anything can happen. The one matchup that I will discuss for this upcoming week, or for the next 2 upcoming weeks, is the championship, of course. I mean, this year we will crown our 4th repeat champion, joining Patrick, Chris, and me as the elite of the elite. Let's discuss Sam's team first, though. There's frankly not a lot to say. We saw the full power of this roster on display last week, and it looks like Sam will add Drake London into his flex. This roster, as it stands right now, would average 133 points a game this year, highest in league history. It is a true juggernaut. I think Sam ought to win this matchup like handily. However, Tim has a lot of guys on his team that can, and often do, score touchdowns. Plus, he has Josh Allen, QB1 in fantasy, as well as Trey McBride, tight end 1 in fantasy, who, by the way, has scored 55 more points than the next best tight end, Travis Kelce, and he would be wide receiver 5 on the season. The value at tight end, like the value over replacement, is usually very bad, but this year Trey McBride has been worth every penny that was paid for him at the draft. Now, despite that, Tim has an incredibly uphill battle against Sam this week. But not only has Tim been running uphill all season, both in fantasy and literally in real life, as we all know, in any given week, anything can happen. Is this bit getting old yet? But this brings me to my next point that I think needs to be said. Couple comments in Discord and just like a general feeling around the league. It is going to get a little bit sappy. So like Tim, since you don't have feelings, feel free to skip this part. I'll also add that if you like totally love everything about fantasy football and have this super healthy relationship with it, and it always makes you feel good, then the next like 2 to 3 minutes or so are not for you. With that being said, I also know I have a bunch of success in the league. I've done pretty well over the 14 years that we've been a league, so I recognize that maybe I'm not the best person to like preach about this, but I do want to offer my 2 cents. I think we all know that fantasy football is a hell of a lot of fun sometimes, whereas other times it can be a source of like a lot of stress. I personally have spent a lot of time kind of wallowing in misery after a loss, thinking like, oh, if only I'd started player A instead of player B. If only I drafted player A instead of player B. Feeling that a lot this year. If only that garbage penalty hadn't gotten called. If only my team was healthy. If only I was playing another opponent this week. If only. And what I've realized that as we bring our 14th season to a near close is that, firstly, having that feeling is just an indication that we care a lot about the game that we play. I think that it's perfectly normal to get frustrated when things don't go our way. Like, winning is fun and losing sucks a lot. However, I think that after all these years, we can admit that this whole silly game that we play is largely based in luck. Of course, there are plenty of things that we can do to mitigate against bad luck. For example, we can just draft players that we have seen historically be good. We can have lots of depth at our roster. We can stay aware of injuries and bye weeks. But like all that. But outside of that, there's like so little about fantasy football that is directly within our control. Every single play of NFL football is 11 on 11 chaos. It's thousands of pounds of anger and testosterone crashing into each other on a field while they all try to control an oblong ball. So if we like zoom out a little bit, this whole activity is fucking ridiculous, right? It's silly. It's largely random. And yes, like Saquon Barkley, for example, is way more likely to break off a 50-yard touchdown than fucking Bam Knight is. Lamar Jackson is way more likely to have a lot of rushing yards than Matt Stafford. There's a really good chance the Lions will have more passing yards in a given season than the Jets. Does that mean that these things will always happen? Absolutely not. But if there were any guarantees, we'd just crown a champion at the draft. And if that's the case, congrats, Jason. You won this season. And Scott, congrats on your silver medal. Really a great showing this year, guys. Excellent job. But with this kind of zoomed out perspective, like, we can watch film. That's fun. We can pore over stat sheets. We can read articles. We can create our own rankings and obsess weeks on end, months on end about who we're drafting, who we're starting, who we're trading for. But if it doesn't work out, we have to be able to say something that I've had to say myself. Oh, well, it's not the end of the world. I hope I'm not beating a dead horse by bringing this up, but I was talking with someone recently about this. Let's use my team last year, for example. I had literally the best scoring season in our league's 13-year history, and I lost in the first round. Seeing an incredible season come crumbling down in 1 week of bad luck, all you can do with that is laugh. Sometimes things go your way and sometimes they don't. What are you going to do, right? Like, what are you going to do? All I could say was, congrats, Chris. Good luck in the championship. And then I can come back this year. I'll do my best and hope things fall my way a little better. I think that's also a small part of why, like, Sacco punishments have maybe gotten a little easier over the years. Like, yes, we're all adults and we have partners and kids and careers and all that. And so we don't go fucking crazy over Sacco punishments. But also, being the Sacco isn't like an indication that you're a terrible human being, except in Tim's case. Or even that you don't know anything about football. I mean, Chris has been the Sacco twice. And that, if that's not an indication that that the Sacco's not like, you're bad at football or you don't know shit about football, like, I don't know what is. All that being the Sacco means is you gambled wrong, you lost, some things didn't go your way. Now you get to wear a goofy outfit and chuckle with your buddies, and then we move on to next year. And that's it. And that's all it should be. Overall, this is largely a very competitive group of guys, certainly. But the whole point of this game that we play, in my mind, and some of y'all may approach it differently, but I just want to share my perspective. The point of this game we play isn't the game itself. It's the community that comes with it. I personally consider myself to be extremely lucky, not just in fantasy, but more importantly, I'm extremely lucky that I have such a close group of friends that I get to share this dumb fucking hobby with. Championships are dope. I know that, obviously. But my favorite part of the league is you guys. I get more excited for the draft than any other part of fantasy football because it means I get to hang out with y'all all at once. And thinking about how much I enjoy that, how much I enjoy getting to talk shop with you guys like on a weekly basis during the season, and then still pretty frequently outside of the season. Plus, with how insane the NFL is and how goofy the game of football is in general, it's really helped me shift my perspective and has allowed me to enjoy fantasy football to a much greater degree than before. I used to let my weekend get ruined. I used to fucking stew about bad lineup decisions and stuff. And I still do that a little bit, but I have such a healthier, I think, relationship with fantasy football than I ever have. And that allows me to enjoy it so much more. Again, like, winning is still fucking awesome and losing still fucking sucks. But regardless of what happens, just remember, guys, I love y'all very much. But more importantly, Remember that I will never be the Sacco, and you all can lick my fucking balls as I completely annihilate everyone next year on my road to my 4th championship. Fuck you. That'll do it for this week's recap. Good luck to everyone except Chris, and of course, go fuck yourselves.